So as you guys know, many Republicans have compromised their oaths to the Constitution by supporting Donald John Trump. Nikki Haley now counts herself among their ranks because she is afraid to relinquish power. Every single Republican who aligns with Donald Constitution oath-breaking Trump, deceptive Don, duplicitous Don, dishonest Don, all of them who find themselves aligning with him have all aligned and backed a Constitution oath breaker. Now, Nikki Haley on CNN, ironically enough, was asked by Jake Tapper, when you were running against Trump, you were asked if you thought Donald Trump would honor the Constitution. And you said you didn't know. Now, here you are being interviewed by Jake Tapper, and he's asking you again. Now you've been asked a second time. Do you think Trump would honor the Constitution? And you said, I hope so. Our nation is in hell.
Asked, do you think Donald Trump would follow the Constitution if he were elected to a second term? And you said, I don't know. Isn't that pretty damning?
I hope that he does. I hope that any president would follow the Constitution, and the American people need to demand that. We need to always fight for that. That is what's real. That's what keeps this country together. And so, yes, I hope that everything he does is in line with the Constitution. And I hope that Congress enforces that. And I hope that everybody he surrounds himself with enforces that. But I think the American people need to demand it.
Now, notice the centrist bullshit we continue to deal with. I hope any politician would honor. I hope any president would honor. Stop acting like the Democrats are running Constitution oath breakers. Stop acting like that, Nikki Haley. Have some spine. Regain the spine you had when you were running against Donald. Regain that and acknowledge and accept that the Democrat Party is not running someone who broke their oath. You currently are participating in the possible election of a Constitution oath breaker. You know that. Then you sit there and talk about, the American people need to demand that. First and foremost, the American citizen does not take an oath to the Constitution. But you have. You have. You have. You are the first line of defense, ma'am. You and the military are the first line of defense of our republic. You took an oath. You are our first line of defense. You can't ask the American people to sit there and hold Donald Trump accountable when you're literally legitimizing him by endorsing him, by surrendering to him after he called you Nimrod as a racist play on your name being Nimrata. You sit there and you endorse him in spite of all of that. You know he broke his oath on January 6th. You know he conspired for 2 months to steal the election. You know these things. All of you know it. And yet you shoulder off your oath to the American people. The American people need to demand that. Ma'am, you swore an oath. Not the thousands and tens of thousands and millions. You know what I'm saying? Not the millions and millions who support y'all. They are not the ones who took an oath. Some of them might have, but the vast majority have never taken an oath in their life. Vast majority. You are the first line of defense. Then you sit there and talk about Congress. Congress needs to put Donald Trump in check. How can Congress put Donald Trump in check if almost all of you have bent the knee to the Trumpite cult? I almost called it MAGA. But I would encourage none of you to call it MAGA, because there is nothing that is making America great again about Trump and his cum-guzzling, meat-munching, sucking fan base. There's nothing about it that makes America great again. An oath-breaking president is by default not making America great again. For you to talk about, oh, I hope, Congress does X, Y, Z. Man, if I recall correctly, almost all of y'all have bent the knee. Almost all of you. Even Dan Crenshaw, who is almost always missing from every MAGA event possible, even he isn't fighting back hard enough. You aren't fighting back hard enough. None of you guys are standing up to Gates, Green, Boebert, you're not fighting back against this insane faction in your party. All of you have surrendered. You have all surrendered. How can Congress hold him accountable when Congress is made up of Republicans who literally worship him? It's not physically possible. And you know that. Then you sit there and talk about, well, the people who surround him need to hold him accountable. You and everyone else knows that every single reasonable person has left the Trump camp. Hutchinson, Farrah Griffin, Barr, the list goes on and on and on. Like, y'all do know that out of the 44 people in Trump's prior cabinet and team, only 4 of them endorse him today. 40 of them have walked away. 40 of them do not endorse him. In words that you can understand, all the normal people who prioritize America and the Constitution before Donald, they're gone. Meaning that Donald Trump cannot be held accountable by his own fan base. They're not even voting. They're a fan base. I'm not even going to call them voters. They're a fan base. His fan base, Congress can't hold him accountable because they literally, half of them worship him. The people around him aren't going to hold him accountable because all the normal people are gone and he refuses to do, he literally, the entire plan of Project 2025 is to replace everyone around him with loyalists who will do whatever he says. Nikki Haley, for you to have surrendered in this way is just disgusting. You hope he does. I hope every president does, as if Joe Biden has ever presented a significant threat to the Constitution. If he ever did, all of you would be crying right now. You'd all be in tears. All of you would be in complete tears, but you're not. You don't fear Joe Biden. The reality is, if you feared Biden, a lot of y'all would be doing the right thing. If you feared that Biden really would crash out behind y'all backing a Constitution oathbreaker, if you really felt like Joe Biden would genuinely stand on business behind what y'all got going on, you wouldn't align with Trump, but you fear Trump and MAGA more than you fear Biden, and you have prioritized personal gain over this nation. You know, in history class, we always ask the teacher, how did XYZ group in history let this happen? How did they not see that this person was an asshole or evil or corrupt or whatever? It first starts with the people. I know I admonished Nikki Haley for trying to put the responsibility on the people. It is true that Nikki Haley is the first line of defense. However, we the people, too many of us don't know what Donald Trump did. A lot of Donald Trump's detractors don't even understand the significance of what he did on January 6th. His supporters refuse to listen to anything that is not about supporting Donald Trump. If the people don't understand our laws, our way of life, our Constitution, and the significance of electing a president who broke the oath to the Constitution, we lose our republic. We lose our democratic values. That is what we end up with. That's what happens. So Nikki, on some level, is right. It is, the American people need to demand that. But Nikki, you are the first line of defense. It is the job of those we elect who swear an oath to stop people like Trump. You didn't do it because you guys saw more value in submitting to Trump for your own personal gain, because you know if you don't bow down and bend the knee before your maker, Trump, he'll replace you with a MAGA loyalist. That is his solution for everything. Everything is Trump loyalist. That is his solution for every inconvenience Donald Trump ever deals with. Every single one. I don't trust that man with any power anymore, because he's made his intentions and his lack of morals and lack of respect for our laws abundantly clear time and time again. For you to sit there and talk about how the people and Congress and those that surround Trump are supposed to hold him accountable, don't you see we're almost completely past all 3 of those checks and balances for Trump? His base won't believe anything anyone else ever says about him. You all elected officials who are Republicans, who are supposed to be the ones to say, no more Trump, you folded! And then everyone around him who was in their right mind had been fired or resigned. All of those checks and balances you named in front of Jake Tapper, gone. Poof. Gone. And you have the audacity to sit there and act like it's normal that you aren't sure if the man you are supporting is going to uphold the Constitution. You are a traitor. Marjorie Taylor Greene, traitor. Boebert, traitor. Byron Donalds, traitor. Ramaswamy, traitor. All of you traitors. Ramaswamy didn't even swear an oath yet, but fuck him, he's a traitor. All of y'all traitors, every single one. All of you. You all are supposed to be the first line of defense against people like Trump. Republican Party oath swearers, senators, members of the House, you guys are supposed to be the ones to say no more Trump. And you didn't do that. Now let's talk about Donald Trump and the Constitution, because this isn't just an empty conversation. Donald Trump and the Constitution have very interesting history together, okay? Donald Trump, when being removed from the ballots because of the Insurrection Act, argued through his lawyers that he never swore an oath to support the Constitution, and therefore he could not be removed. I shit you not. The Colorado Supreme Court agreed to hear an appeal on a lawsuit filed by the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, watchdog group, and Republican figures who argued that Trump's actions on January 6 of 2021 violated Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and therefore he should be prohibited from running for the White House again. The section states a person who engaged in insurrection or rebellion after taking an oath of office to support the Constitution should be barred from running for office again. In a previous ruling, lower court judge Sarah B. Wallace said that Trump had engaged in insurrection on January 6th, the day of the Capitol riot, but should remain on Colorado's primary ballot, as the wording of the 14th Amendment does not specifically mention preventing people from running for the presidency. In their appeal against the Colorado lawsuit, Trump's lawyers reiterated that the wording of Section 3 does not apply to people running for president, and that Trump technically did not swear an oath to support the Constitution. Instead, during his January 2017 inauguration, Trump swore to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution during his role as president. This is what we're dealing with. His lawyers sit there and say, well, he didn't swear an oath to support the Constitution. He swore an oath to preserve, protect, and defend, because somehow these things are not the same. They're not the same. These verbs are in no way, shape, or form the same, no way connected. But let's actually look at Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to figure out exactly what's going on and if Trump doesn't qualify. Because they sit there and say that treacherous judge, she sits there and says, oh, well, it doesn't specifically mention that you can't run for the office of the presidency, but it's so obvious. It's so obvious that the presidency literally would count in this particular part of the Constitution. Section 3 says, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may vote by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. Donald Trump is by definition a military officer of the United States as commander-in-chief. The commander-in-chief, the president, is the ultimate commanding officer in the military, which would mean that Donald Trump would not qualify for the office of the presidency because it is an office of the United States. The presidency is not above the United States. Otherwise, you wouldn't swear an oath to the Constitution. You just be president. You wouldn't swear an oath to anything. No office presides above our law. At all. Our nation is our laws. No office presides above our law, which means no office presides above our nation. Not a single one. Not a single one. It says, or as an officer of the United States. Oh my God. Like, how the presidency does not count in that is like so obvious. It's so unbelievably obvious. You can't be a commander-in-chief if you committed the act of insurrection. And yet, that treacherous judge helped Trump slither away. And think about how horrible of a president you have to be, that you have found yourself in a legal battle in which your lawyers have to argue, well, my client never swore an oath to support the Constitution, but to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. Oh my God, what is happening to our country? We let an orange nigga take over. What happened? You know, I can't say that word. You know what's really crazy about all you conservatives is you talk that big talk and beat y'all's chests about, oh, we hate the elites and the establishment and these rich people effing us over, and then y'all let a rich kid from Jamaica, Queens, New York come in, finesse all of you, take over your entire party, create a cult of personality around himself, betray his oath on January 6th, lie to y'all about the election being stolen, despite the fact that, hold on, let me pull up the facts here. I have them. Let me remind y'all of the people who told Trump there was no fraud. Let me remind y'all. I had the notes right here on Obsidian. Ooh, so here we have the defendant's vice president, who personally stood to gain, I'm reading the indictment, by remaining in office as part of the defendant's ticket, the defendant being Trump, and whom the defendant asked to study fraud allegations, told the defendant that he had seen no evidence of outcome determinative fraud. The senior leaders of the Justice Department appointed by Donald Trump and responsible for investigating credible allegations of election crimes told the defendant on multiple occasions that there was no fraud. The Director of National Intelligence, the defendant, Donald Trump, principal advisor on intelligence matters related to national security, disabused the defendant of the notion that the intelligence community's findings regarding foreign interference would change the outcome of the election. The Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, and Infrastructure Security Agency told him. Senior White House attorneys told him. Senior staffers on the defendant's 2020 re-election campaign told him. State legislators and officials told him. State and federal courts told him. Everyone told Trump, nigga, you lost. Donald Trump says, no, Giuliani, come here. He conspires with his personal lawyers and only one state official to steal an election from the United States of America. He tries to get Mike Pence to throw out Joe Biden's votes and replace them with Trump votes. Donald Trump finessed all of you blue-collar, tough, conservative men into supporting a rich kid who throws unbelievably treacherous Constitution oath-breaking tantrums when he loses elections. But all of y'all look retarded. I don't want to hear from none of y'all no more about the elites and the establishment and the wealthy people who don't care about the common man. You got finessed. Donald Trump engaged in insurrection, broke his oath, and Nikki Haley over there talking about some, well, I hope he does. I hope he honors his oath. She's still cosplaying as a white woman still. I hope he keeps his oath. Like, oh my God, like, ma'am, wake up. I'm done talking about Republican politicians today in a respectful way because you guys have all broken your oath. And we can't let them get away with this. We can't. This is literally the Civil War all over again. If we don't make sure that future Americans understand that engaging in this kind of behavior has legal consequences, our nation is fucked. We're literally just kicking the Trump problem down the road. If we don't make sure every legislator who stood by Donald, if we don't make sure they face legal consequences, we're screwed as a nation. Talking about some, I hope he keeps his oath. This is America. This is America now. I can't believe I'm saying that. I sound like some super duper, libtard, but this is our country now. Half of the nation's leadership is compromised. I know the founding fathers somewhere losing their motherfucking mind, boy. They gotta be tweaking. The first black president, completely smooth sailing. They let a blonde-haired, blue-eyed tangerine into office and everything goes to... I know them niggas, wherever they at, George and them, Thomas and them, they down bad right now, but they gotta be in a bad spot. I know they tweaking right now. I would be too. First black president, smooth sailing. Y'all end up with Trump, total chaos. That's crazy. That's crazy. I know Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee and the rest of them are trying to figure out how to justify Trump. And to make matters worse for the founding fathers, if they're watching what's happening to their amazing country, because this is the greatest country to ever exist, but Lord have mercy, are we going to hell? Donald Trump said, with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception that did not exist, we've already established the fact that there was no fraud and that Donald Trump was actually trying to commit the fraud. In working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner? Or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. This is who you're supporting if you're voting for Donald Trump. This man knew there was no fraud and still tried to argue that the termination of the Constitution was appropriate for massive widespread fraud that he knew did not exist. And to make it even more Machiavellianly evil, he was the one plotting the fraud the whole time. Bro. And the crazy thing is, we have systems put in place to protect from fraud. We don't terminate the Constitution if there's fraud. The problem is there was no fraud. So what Donald Trump is able to do is make it seem like, well, you're not finding any evidence of fraud because they won't show it. So we have to terminate the Constitution. The reality is there just is no fraud. There was none. And he still actively called for the termination of the Constitution. Wake up, Nikki Haley and friends. Wake up. I'm going to say a prayer for y'all Trump supporters, bro, because this is a dark path in American history that your leaders are taking us down. And I encourage more and more of y'all to just break away from the Trumpite cult. You can still be conservative, an American, a Republican, but it's time to acknowledge and accept the fact that Donald Trump broke his oath, betrayed this nation, and it's okay to let him go. I hope every single one of you guys, no matter what your political alignment is, I hope all of you guys have an amazing and blessed day. I'm out.